coaches and player interviews to the game recaps week by week, as well as talking with all the insiders that have the pulse when it comes to prep sports in the Central Valley. Central Valley Sports Report, airing 10 a.m. to noon, live from First String Sports every Saturday on 1430 ESPN Fresno.
Every day is game day, so if you're 35 or older and feeling more tired, less focused, not like yourself, something's off. It could be low testosterone. Waiting won't fix it, but you can turn it around with Game Day Men's Health. They'll help you get back in the game, stronger, sharper, and more like yourself again. Schedule your free testosterone assessment today at GameDayMen'sHealth.com/Fresno or Visalia. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com/Fresno or Visalia and get back in the game. Game Day Men's Health.
Every day, the choices you make matter, especially for your business and the community around you. When you choose to bank local with FFB Bank, your deposits don't sit on the sidelines. They help fund local businesses, create jobs, and strengthen the neighborhoods you serve. With business accounts designed for you, local decision-making, and a team that understands your goals, FFB is here to help you grow. Because your success is everyone's success. Be the one who builds community while building your business. Visit ffb.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Opportunity Lender.
For 80 years, Fresno Pacific University has been shaping the heart and soul of California as the Central Valley's only accredited Christian university. Today, our deep faith roots and pride in our community drive us to provide affordable, career-relevant education that transforms the lives of our students and the communities they serve. Discover your calling through over 100 undergraduate and graduate programs offered on campus or fully online. Fresno Pacific University. Learn more at fpu.edu.
At Helena Agri Enterprises, we're committed to helping you make the best agronomic decisions for your farm. That's why we combine cutting-edge technology with superior products. Helena's Agri-Intelligence program uses in-depth analysis to identify potential problems in the field before they take root. Combined with a complete line of high-quality crop production and crop protection inputs, Helena has the tools to help you increase productivity, enhance performance, and maximize your return on investment. Contact your local Helena representative or authorized dealer to create the right plan for your farm with Helena products and Agri-Intelligence.
There's nothing like the excitement of Fresno State Bulldogs athletics. From big-time matchups to unforgettable game day moments with the Red Wave, Bulldog Pride runs deep. Come support your favorite teams all season long and be part of the tradition at Fresno State. Feel the energy, hear the crowd, and experience what Bulldog Pride is all about. For schedules, tickets, news, and more, visit GoBulldogs.com today. Your Fresno State Bulldogs. Pride, passion, tradition. Go Dogs!
Steel prices are rising everywhere except where it counts. Pacific Steel Supply INC in Fresno still delivers unbeatable value, rain or shine. They'll match or beat any competitor's price by at least 10% on top quality steel, roofing, and components. 24/7 service? Absolutely. When storms hit, Pacific Steel Supply INC keeps your build moving. Get your free quote today at PacificSteelSupplyINC.com. Pacific Steel Supply INC. Premium products delivered on time, every time.
But we have a truck leaving with a big order on Tuesday.
Tina's floor manager retired, leaving her tortilla factory flat out.
What do you mean she's on a silent retreat?
She must fill the role and all those orders.
Oversee production.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Everybody, welcome to Tuesday SportsLine, the Bulldog Hour. Or alongside, we'll take you to three-handed up our good friend Phil Benatti. His fine show behind the bench, normally 3 hours, 1 hour today, because he and Paul Metters will be heading out to high school baseball in Kingsburg, Selma in Kingsburg tonight. Lakers and Thunder over on 790. I'll tell you all about the schedule for today and throughout the week in about 20, 25 minutes, somewhere in that range, and we'll do that courtesy of Ed Dunkel and his fine business, Precision Civil Engineering, again, planning, land surveying, civil engineering, landscape architecture, construction management. It's all there under one roof. For more information, you can always give them a call at 449-4500 or go to the web at precisioneng.com. Jackson with me to talk three different aspects of Fresno State. Bat and ball-wise, we will talk softball because they do start the tournament tomorrow. And again, it is a single elimination opening round. The men are doing the same thing, though. The Fresno State men, baseball-wise, are very much on the outside looking in. They have a very, very small chance, mathematically only, but softball got there with the wins over the weekend, and we'll talk to Jackson about how things work for this club against New Mexico, who they lost a couple of weeks ago in Albuquerque, but had leads late in those games, about the single elimination opening round. But if you can get through it, you then are in double elimination, and that's important because bracketing-wise in this 4-5 game, if you were to win, you will find yourself right up against the number one seed and prohibitive favorite Grand Canyon, and almost assuredly it's going to be a one-bid league. So for Fresno State, it's definitely either you win the conference tourney or you don't go to a regional. So I'll talk to Jackson about that. We'll also talk about new acquisitions for Vance and the things we have seen basketball-wise, and I'll also ask Jackson about how recruiting is going in football. So we'll get to all of that with our de facto co-host in just a couple of minutes. But first, as always, other lead dogs want to spend some time with you, starting with our friends at Lee's Air Plumbing, Heating, and Roofing. They have been in NorCal and Central California since 1981. They afford me the time every day to tell you about the weather. And again, anything you need, Central Air Plumbing, Heating, and Roofing, give them a call, 825-5337, which is 825-LEES, or go to the web at leesair.com. You can schedule your appointments there. You see the avocado green and blue trucks all over the place. I've had them in to do work, even during COVID. Really professional people, very competitive pricing, and a very wise choice if you have any need in regard to their services. As far as the forecast goes, the rains that have come in and out the last couple of days, depending upon where you are in the valley, you might have seen some. Other parts of the valley, you saw nothing. The foothills, a little bit more of a chance. Those rains should be done. I know as far as the metro area right now, it is sunshine after having a little bit of precip earlier. It will be by dinner time tonight on its way out for sure across the valley, and then we settle into a little bit more of seasonal weather after the cool 71 today. And again, I hope you have if you are celebrating Cinco de Mayo, a meaningful and very festive time. And also keep in mind, Mother's Day, of course, is coming up on Sunday. So for those of us who have to make sure things work out, it means time to call the kids and say, make sure you treat Mom properly on Sunday. Dad, it doesn't make any difference. The third Sunday in June is highly irrelevant, but the second one in May is a very big deal. That having been said, after we roll through Cinco de Mayo today, high of 80 tomorrow, 89 on Thursday and Friday, and then it starts to feel like Fresno, California in May, 91 on Saturday, 98 Sunday, and a handy 103 is forecast for next Monday. That is the 7-day. And by the way, for the first time in a long while, we're going to see a low that's in the 70s with a 70 projected for that low from Saturday to Sunday as we head to Monday and the 103. Anyway, thanks everybody at Lee's for allowing us the time. Again, leesair.com, 825-5337, 825-LEES. Also, keep in mind they sponsor the Lee's Air Hotline. That's how you can reach Phil, and that's how our guests, like our de facto co-host Jackson Moore, jump up on air with us. So mark it down, 559-320-1430. The final reminder comes from our good friend Joe Cruz and his great business, Superior Pipe and Stainless Supply. Joe has been a benefactor for over 3 decades at Fresno State in his fine business, now celebrating its 26th anniversary. More information, you can give him a call at 266-7473, which is 266-PIPE, or stop by 4529-4529 North Marty Avenue in Town, Suite 103. If you want to get more information on the web, you can do that at superiorpipeusa.com, or Gabe, who works for Joe, has a direct email, gabe.sbs@gmail.com. Pipe fittings, valves, sanitary fittings, food-grade chemical hoses, suction hoses, it's all there under one roof. Great business, family-friendly, same-day service, same-day estimates. And, again, if you're someone who works around a valve, a plant, a maintenance person, tanker delivery service operator, work around a boiler perhaps, maybe you're at a dairy, anybody who works around a valve, if that valve goes down, your business can go down with it in a very big hurry. And so Joe is able to address your needs, whether by phone or in person, and tell you exactly what they can do to keep you up and running. If it's already a hit that's costing you some, they'll get you back up to full song in a big hurry. And in that regard, it is an invaluable service. And when he and Gabe and everybody else there finish analyzing your situation and get you back where you belong, Joe will ask you, if you have a few minutes, to listen to what he has done in regard to fundraising at Fresno State and what he'd like to see you do, if possible, with your business. And right now, the best avenue is to head to the main website at GoBulldogs.com. There's a donate link right at the top. Click on that. It'll take you to different areas of donation. BulldogFoundation.org has a link. There you'll find Club Red, which is where former student-athletes can get involved. The major giving societies, the Green V Society, the Myers Champion Circle, they have their links. And then under Ways to Give, the individual sports clubs are there, in addition to Valley Co-op, the very important matching funds opportunity, and Valley Fueled is there as well. So all that information is there. Under the sports clubs header, you can give your money directly, for instance, Quarterback Club for football, Timeout Club for men's basketball. Jack Fertig normally with me on Wednesdays to talk basketball. Tomorrow the Giants have our time slot. But Jack has said they'd love to see more members for the Timeout Club. He said you can give him a call directly for more info on his cell, 559-287-3305, or hit him up on his email, fertigjack@AOL.com. There are links for other sports there, for instance, Dugout Club for baseball and other men's and women's sports as well, under Ways to Give. So that's the best way to go about it, and we appreciate the time that Joe allows us to tell you how to donate to Fresno State, just like we appreciate everything Ed Dunkel does for us and the fact that he is another benefactor for Fresno State through the Lyles College of Engineering. And so always check out everything at precisioneng.net. And then, of course, thanks as always to our friends at Lee's Air Plumbing, Heating, and Roofing. And on the aforementioned Lee's Air hotline, 559-320-1430. It is our great friend and de facto co-host, the king of all media. Again, men want to be with him. Women want to be him. Oh, it's the other way around. I'm sorry. I bring Jackson up. Jackson, it's the other way. Women want to be with you. Men want to be. You got to write this more clearly, Jackson. I don't mind reading your intros, but you mess me up. My goodness, what's wrong with you? I guess that question would be there because people would say, you're on the air with me, so what is wrong with you coming on the air with me? Would you like to explain that, dating back to 2013, what deep masochistic need you have to put up with my abuse each and every day? Explain this to me. I'd like to know myself. Anyway, how you doing, Jackson? He's hung up, ladies and gentlemen. He's gone again. All right. How you doing, Paisan?
I'm doing okay, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing just. You never know, do you? You know why you never know? Because I never know, and that's pretty frightening. All right, both of us are on the roller coaster ride without the safety bar. You would think at least I would have some vague notion where we're headed, but you know my motto, right? Hopelessly lost, but making great time. And do you join me in that quest every day, Jackson?
I suppose so.
Okay. Again, listen, you're a Grizzlies fan. I'm a Warrior fan. Again, it's a Nerf ball game in the parking lot at Chase Center this weekend again. By the way, to Bill out there who said after watching the great, and I do mean great, Ant-Man Anthony Edwards gut it out last night for the T-Wolves, he said, geez, do you wonder if the Warriors would have gone ahead and drafted Anthony Edwards? Bill, I don't wonder that because the Warriors did not pass Anthony Edwards by. Okay, the Warriors had the second pick in the draft. The T-Wolves had that one pick, and they had made it clear from Jump Street that they were going after the Georgia Bulldog star, Anthony Edwards, with the first pick. If for some reason they would have bypassed Edwards and the Warriors would have still picked up James Edwards, I would have wondered what in the world was going on, okay? What I'm saying is what has happened over and over again is a misunderstanding. Jackson, how do you feel about that? And James Edwards, by the way, played at Washington. It was a play on words. How do you feel, Jackson, about what you saw last night, if you had a chance to watch it, from Anthony Edwards, because he was not anywhere close to 100% just to be out there last night?
Yeah, I was at the Clovis Showcase last night with a lot of football going on. I believe I saw the Timberwolves still limped to the finish line and won, though, right? So he helped them get it done.
Yeah, they won. They won because you had a wide-open three you missed at the end. But what I'm saying is anybody who, again, proffers the agenda that the Warriors passed him by, they're wrong. It could have been embarrassing to them, by the way, if they would have had the one pick and gone past it, but they didn't do that. And hindsight is always 20/20. And Bill, thanks for the question. And I think you might have just wanted to rub it in. That's all you wanted to do, which is what you like to do, by the way, Jackson. All right, listen, I'll get to that showcase that you're talking about, because it is important in recruiting at Fresno State. But what I would like to start with is softball in this regard. By the time we get back on the air on Thursday, Fresno State softball team is either going to be on the way back home from Reno, or they're going to be within an hour of starting that double elimination round of this conference tournament against the number one seed, Grand Canyon. I was a little disappointed, Jackson, they didn't go back to the format where the lowest remaining seed went to the highest remaining seed, and that way, in case the number 6 seed were to have upset the 3 seed, you wouldn't face Grand Canyon in that 4 or 5 matchup. But the coaches, as you know, like the bracketing, so they know in advance. So I will ask you, since the Bulldogs did lose that series in Albuquerque a couple of weekends ago, but had leads late, lost a couple of crushing games late, do you like their chances tomorrow? They'll start at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Do you like their chances to get into the double elimination round on Thursday against the prohibitive favorite, Grand Canyon?
I mean, it sure feels like 50-50 to me. Both of these teams are virtually 500 overall and in conference, and about the only difference was the series they played against each other, where both teams had one kind of lopsided win, and then New Mexico squeezed out that 6-5 game in between, and it was in Albuquerque, so they had a little bit of an advantage there that won't be in Reno here. So, I mean, it feels like both of these teams are right about, again, average going into the postseason, and only one can come out of this single elimination game. So it really just feels like it could go either way right now. I'm glad at least the Bulldogs come out of the regular season with some momentum. They finished off in a fun way on Saturday, getting that last win against San Diego State and punching their ticket. But I do almost wish they were in the 6 seed rather than the 5 seed, despite making sure they were in the first place.
Yeah, and that's your point is exactly, Jackson, where I was headed. What they had done in previous years is go ahead and say the lower seed remaining ends up against the highest seed. So it meant if the 6 seed were to have upset the 3 seed, then the 6 seed would go to that top seed, and it meant you would be spared facing the 1 seed. Sometimes it doesn't make any difference. From what you have mentioned on and off air, you do believe it's the old Larry Bird line right now about the conference tournament, right? When Bird would walk in to All-Star Weekend before the three-point shootout and say, okay, who's playing for second place? You believe that everybody's playing for second place in regard to Grand Canyon, so you don't want to see the Lopes right away, correct? But you don't have a choice. Yeah. If you don't want to see it right away now, if you're Fresno State, you're going to be home. So that probably isn't a great alternative. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, preferably. It would have been nice to avoid them as long as possible. The Dogs don't get that opportunity. But they did drop 4 games in conference play. They're not unbeatable. It'd be tougher in double elimination, especially if you might be able to get them once, but twice is probably not going to happen. And while they have been beatable, it didn't feel that way when they came to Fresno earlier this season. That was I thought Fresno State played pretty well, and they still didn't come close to knocking them off in that doubleheader. So got to really hope first of all, just get through that first single elimination, and then cross your fingers that you get hot and maybe someone else gives you a hand so you don't have to take them on twice.
Yeah, you're right. And again, for people that want to follow it, themw.com, 3 o'clock tomorrow from Reno, where much like Albuquerque, the ball flies and the Bulldogs were there just a week ago. So they had seen the Lobos in Albuquerque a couple weeks ago, and then right after that, it was time to go to Reno before this final last regular season homestand wrapped things up, where the Bulldogs had to beat San Diego State to go. So 3 o'clock tomorrow. If they lose, season's over for them. If they win, then at 3 o'clock on Thursday, they will see number 1 seed Grand Canyon, who, by the way, lost a couple of games. The first conference losses for the Lobes took place on that field in Reno a few weeks back. So we'll see if you can get past New Mexico tomorrow. You at least get into the double elimination part of it. But as far as this opening round, the top 2 seeds get a bye, and 3, 6, 4, 5 play single elimination. So we'll see what happens. It's the same setup the men have right now, but Jackson, the odds of Fresno State's baseball team getting there is infinitesimal. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, even if you go, it's not even odds for all 6, but if you look at it for a tournament, of course, 1 and 6 is a tough one to pull off. Being the 5th team, you're of course a bit of an underdog going in. I'm sure Grand Canyon, UNLV, and Nevada, that trio of teams, it would be, you'd much rather have that third than the entire field outside of them. But that's why they get into these tournaments and let them go at it. And I think also Fresno, New Mexico too, they've shown enough that they can beat these teams on a given day, and that given day might happen at the right time.
Well, by the way, just to clarify, you were talking about softball. I was referencing the chance of the baseball team actually making the postseason tournament. So, because I know you're looking at me going, wait a minute, you're downgrading the softball team's chance. No, they have a puncher's chance there, particularly if for some reason they were able to jump up and get the Lopes in that first double elimination game. Then you got yourself with an opportunity. I meant the odds of the baseball team. Mathematically, the baseball team could still make that final 6. I'm saying that they're not going to do that. I think you agree with me about that, correct?
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of scenarios that have to be right, and that could be done with as early as Friday, I think. So we'll see. Credit to the team for doing what they did at Washington State to get that last win and break that streak. But yeah, the scenarios are there, but they are incredibly unlikely.
Well, another Jackson, not you, I assume, unless you're emailing me, said, I noticed the eerie similarity between the Fresno State baseball season and the San Francisco Giants. Yes, it hasn't been lost on me when both teams were heading back home with losing streaks, okay? Although the Bulldogs, like you said, broke theirs after a 6-game losing streak, and the Giants broke theirs at home last night after they lost all 6 on the road. And I'd prefer that, Jackson, not to address that. And that wasn't you, was it? You wouldn't email me about that, would you? Maybe you would. No, okay, fine. I trust you. All right, I want to get to basketball here. How do you view what's going on right now as far as the acquisition of talent? Vance, I think, has a team that is much, much more suited to what he'd like to do than what we saw in his first 2 seasons. Is it going to be good enough? Is there enough time, Jackson? Is there enough talent and enough shooting for this team to be viable as they head into what is going to be a tough conference, no doubt about it? It's not like they left an easy one, but they are heading to a very tough one as well.
Yeah, I think it's tough to project exactly where this team is with so many new pieces coming together, and then, of course, most of the rest of the conference as well, doing a lot of the same thing right now. But you can at least compare from last year to this year, and year 1 to year 3 from Coach Wahlberg, and there does seem to be a higher level of talent, of experience. You look back last year, which was a great upgrade from the previous year, and they still only got 2 Division I transfers. They leaned on the international market quite a bit, which some of that panned out very well. Some of that was just okay. This time around, they've got 61 transfers so far, and I wouldn't be surprised if that number's 7, 8, or 9 by the end of this process. So they're getting there. They're going to have a much older team, much more players that have that that experience coming in. They're not going to be learning on the fly. And, you hope some of those guys that are, you cross your fingers that some of them pan out, that you've got another Deshaun Gorey in there that bridges a little bit of the gap that you might have missed from last year's team. So I know there's, from my understanding, a lot more NIL built into this roster as well. I think that shows. And it feels like the ball's rolling in the right way here.
We had been told that they were going to have about $4 million to use. Is that accurate? And if it is, how close are they to tapped out here? I mean, any idea numbers-wise?
Not totally sure. So that would be fantastic if that's where the number is. It would be. I've heard it's quite a bit more than last year, and that would definitely be the case. I know from my understanding, at least, that they have tried to play this as smart as possible. You talked about some of the numbers that were flying around for guys like Deshaun Gorey and Wilson Jackson. It's not just that they didn't want to quite match those numbers, but also if you do that right out of the gates and then you don't have enough after that to build the rest of your roster, you're in trouble. So I think they've got quite a bit to work with still down the final stretch. The problem is if you're in the market for centers and point guards, which the Bulldogs are right now, those guys are going to cost. A player that might be as good at the other positions would be much more of a discount than what you're trying to get as your backup point guard or as a contending center, which I think is kind of the goal right now. So there should be quite a bit of money left over, but also you're going to need all of that to get even some just rotational type players at those two positions.
Last couple of acquisitions. There's no other way to refer to it as anything other than an acquisition. It's not a recruit. Somewhere in there is a student-athlete moniker that I don't know applies. I guess the whole game right now is to get 12 units and stay academically eligible. Do we have any idea what happened to the desire at one point, demand by the NC2A that you are actually working toward a degree, that you're matriculating the ball downfield, Leonard? You know what I mean? That's a Hank Cram reference, by the way. What about it? I mean, is it acquisition? Is that the right term for it? Which is kind of a weird thing to say about recruiting at the high school to college level, but because so many of these guys are coming from professional environments or other things, leagues overseas, is it acquisition? Is that the accurate way to refer to anybody coming to your team?
I think the overseas players are probably the greatest example of that term, just because guys like Wilson Jack, a bunch of international players came over this past year for Fresno State, and they were all about 21 years old, and they were all listed as freshmen. Now I'm hearing they might not actually get 4 years of eligibility. It might only be 2 or 3. So I'm not exactly sure what we're doing there to classify the 21-year-olds as freshmen and then also not give them 4 years of college eligibility to get their degree. Maybe they can do it in 3, but if it's only 2, they'd use 2 years of eligibility and then probably not have a 4-year degree at the end of it and probably have to go back home. So I'm not sure what the thinking is there. But if you're a basketball program, most of these guys are just 1-year propositions. So they're not really worried about the long term right now, which is unfortunate. You try to make as big of an impact on their lives in 1 year and maybe hope that you get 2, but it's a much different discussion in the days of, or even currently for football, of having a plan to bring someone in for 4 years and really develop them beyond sports and get their degrees and whatnot. So basketball is definitely in a different place right now.
It's a great point, Jax. We had talked about this in regard to Fernando Mendoza, who I don't think is going to be standing in line for government cheese anytime soon, okay? But what he did, even though he had transferred, and obviously it worked out very well for him, he went ahead and got his degree from Cal anyway, but he did not obviously finish his playing career there. And like I said, it's worked out just fine. We brought up Nyjah Kennedy and her situation of leaving Stanford and by the way, she was the second pick overall in the professional softball draft the other night. But when she left Stanford, again, you're leaving one of the great academic institutions, as is Cal, and that's why I think Mendoza wanted to get that degree from Cal, which he did. But with Kennedy, she has picked up $2 million, $1 million last year, $1 million this year, and then, of course, we'll hopefully, and from her point of view, bring Texas Tech back to the College World Series and maybe get it done. But I don't think she's going back to Stanford to get her degree, but there is a case to be made to do just that. For these players coming over, Jackson, you can't view them as mercenary, but you cannot for a moment believe they really care about getting a degree. And like you said, if they're not going to be afforded the time eligibility-wise, they're not going to hang around for a couple of years after to get a degree when they're going to be chasing a professional contract, whether it's stateside or back home overseas, right?
Yeah, and especially with men's basketball, you talk about the number's $4 million, and if the hypothetical is that Fresno State's potentially on the lower end within the Pac-12 or the Power 4 beyond them, I mean, and there's only 15 players on a roster, a lot of these guys are making pretty serious money. They're life-changing money. You know, you might not have to be an elite center to get a pretty good payday right now. So not everyone is making life-changing money in college basketball right now, but there are some that it's going to be more valuable probably than had they gone somewhere for 4 years at their degree and not an NIL for sure. I don't think, again, football, I think that's probably a select number of guys when you're talking about that big of a roster, and I think that's got a big part to do with why you're not seeing as much movement. It's just hard to differentiate too far between certain players, but it's easy to understand why some basketball players are going the way they are when you see the type of numbers that are being thrown around.
All right, the last couple that are on the board now, again, overseas players. More shooting and more size, is that what we're seeing right now?
Marko Vukovic coming in from Serbia, he's a nice blend. Been seeing him listed anywhere from 6'7" to 6'9", somewhere in there is fine to be a type of wing, a stretch forward for this 4-out offense. Definitely a solid three-point shooter. He was shooting 35% in the top Serbian league this past year. He was almost 50% the year before in the under-19s. He played in the FIBA under-20 for Serbia, so he's got a lot on his resume already. And I like that he can shoot the three-point shot, but he's also pretty aggressive on the drive, and he's aggressive at the rim. You watch his tape, and there's a lot of dunks and a lot of shots made in traffic. And you think the Bulldogs have had some players on the wing that can shoot. They've had some that can drive. They haven't really had a lot of both. And if you get one of those guys that can do that at this level, that's a game changer. It allows you to spread out the defense, especially if you're in that three position. Try to keep that your point guard and your off-ball guard as spaced out as possible and have room to drive. And then if the teams hop over, you can get that ball to that corner and get that three-point shot off, or even Vukovic can take it and drive past the defender and get to the rim. Looks like he's got all of that in his arsenal. So I think that's going to be good. It looks like just more of a bit more of a fluid athlete and more of a shooter probably than a Gasper Kochever, who was also himself a pretty decent player for the Bulldogs. So I feel like this is a guy that can do some of what Kochever did, some of what Cameron Frost did, but potentially at a higher level if it pans out. I know last year watching the European tape, it was tough to quite translate what they were doing to what they ultimately were at Fresno State. But when I watch him play, you know, it looks like a guy that would just flourish in a 4-out dribble drive system. And I'm sure that's what Coach Wahlberg was thinking when he watched the tape.
Now I want to ask you about Ken Delino. Again, are we looking at someone who's there for depth, someone who can be a difference maker? Jackson, what's your feeling there?
He's an interesting trajectory. Walked on at Wisconsin, took some to develop there. Then in the second year at Lipscomb, which was his fourth year of eligibility, really came on, double-digit scorer for them, big-time three-point shooter. I think he's probably kind of in the mold of a Jake Heidbreder, what they hope that they can get from him. Similar three-point shooting, they think. Maybe might be able to do a little bit more off the dribble. It might bring a little bit more versatility to his game. So I don't foresee him being a leading scorer by any chance for Fresno State, or at least to the level that Heidbreder was compared to the rest of the team. I think that's probably going to be more balanced with this group. At least it's looking that way so far. But I think they're trying to have him replicate some of what Heidbreder did. And if the three-point shooting's there alone, that's going to be a big threat. But it looks like he can do a little bit more, too.
Last thing, basketball-wise, we've talked about guys on the radar, and I know there's still a couple there. Without naming names, is there anybody that Vance is looking at right now that you believe, if that individual were to come here, would be a true difference maker, or have we gotten past that point now?
It's a little hard to tell. I think definitely at center, they only have one right now, and you want to have at least two, and you'd probably like to have three in case of injury. So you always have two healthy centers to go to. Sometimes that third there's a little more of a hybrid player, someone that can stretch out to the wing or go a bit to center. But I think if they get the player that they want at that second center position, it could be someone that challenges Brady Hennig, who they have brought in from Cal Baptist. So if you have two quality centers, that's a big deal. Likely one emerges over the course of the season, but to have two was big. So if that next center they get potentially becomes a starter, that would be no idea. I don't know exactly who that might be, but that's the target right now. They also need another point guard. I think KJ Perry is going to start for this program, but we'll see exactly what kind of caliber player they get there. It seems like there's at least one more spot, though, for a off-ball player, and they've got a pretty good group coming in already, but I know they've been swinging for a couple of big players. Some of them are here. Some of them have fallen through. If they can pull off maybe that one more big-time off-ball guard that can really score or really shoot, that could go a long way, obviously. But I know they've been close. I'm just not sure if they're at a spot where they've had to move on or if they got to address other needs now.
We've talked over and over again about the necessity of this year, for the sake of the program itself, for Vance and the coaching staff, for this year coming up to be one that is very much a positive going forward, not a wait till next year. In that regard, with that as the backdrop, I mean, that is the elephant in the room, and maybe it isn't even the elephant in the room. Maybe it's a thundering herd through the room. It's not something you can ignore. We talk about, ignoring the elephant in the room. Everybody knows what's at stake with the coaching staff and all of that. But as objective as you can be, comparing this roster right now, understanding these guys have not played together, nor have we seen them up close and personal, a lot of them, like you mentioned, on tape, et cetera, that you have to watch. But is this a light years difference in regard to talent from what you've seen from this to even Vance's first year, which was not that long ago?
I would say so. I think, is there someone right now that's as good as Jake Heidbreder was at the end of last year and as good as Deshaun Goria was last year? At least statistically, there's not been a singular replacement, perhaps, that has put up those kinds of numbers. But I think the depth is the biggest thing. You look at the Bulldogs, there's basically three players. You had Wilson Jackson, the two I just mentioned. I mean, those were the three guys that had value in the portal this offseason, and or would have if Heidbreder had eligibility. And this year it seems like they've got about 7 or 8 guys that can really play. So it's going to take a little bit of time to put the pieces to the puzzle together and get it rolling. But Dragos Lungu, Brian Amunique, KJ Perry, Ross Candelino coming in. I mean, there's a lot of players that have proven themselves at the D1 level that are going to have more depth and more versatility, I think. And you're not as worried as if one guy pans out here or one guy pans out there. I think they're going to have about 11 or 12 players that are going to be ready to go. And as long as they stay healthy, they should be in pretty good shape to be a lot more competitive this year.
Well, you and I were talking at the start of the show today about James Wiseman and the limited time that he had in college and the projection about what he could be, and it has turned out that he is not that player. And we always have to use that proviso. We see these guys from overseas, in particular, even guys stateside that haven't had a lot of playing time, and you hope they are as advertised. You hope that their hype tape isn't something that's non-legit. So we will see, but the big issue, as you and I have discussed over and over again, even if you have the talent, Jackson, I will ask you one more time, is there enough time to put together a cohesive unit And, you can make the argument it's the same for everybody. But when you look at a Gonzaga, you do say schools like that, with their history, with their continuity, with the credibility of their head coach and what they have done, that they do have an enormous advantage. Is there enough time for a Fresno State to put together a viable team between now and, say, January when conference play is underway full time?
I believe so. I think it's still tough. Probably if the bar is Gonzaga, Utah State, San Diego State, that's going to be tough. But even if you punt, maybe you say you get one out of 6 games. If you're competitive enough to play in the rest, you could be a lot better than you were, and you could also with a lot more of the confidence than the not Stephen, albeit a conference. So I think for Fresno State, you got to have the right players to run this team and track, and you got to have enough talent to be efficient against some of those teams. Especially point guard in there, so they've got that can hold their own, and a lot of players that will swing at the position. So I feel like they're going to be super undermanned or undersized by any means. I really like the play shooting team so far. Vukovic and both of them, they've got a bunch of 5-point games under their belt, which has been very nice to have for Fresno State the last couple of years. If they can do something like that, can good things out. Brian Anionic, we've seen firsthand, he can shoot the ball pretty well. Lungu is a guy that can do a little bit of everything. So I like the pieces out of there, and hopefully they can finish out strong with the last couple of spots. And again, to the level that some of these teams in the upcoming Pac-12 are playing, it's going to be tough to match, but doesn't mean they can't be a whole lot better than they were last year.
Well, they're going to have to be, and I know that Vance is doing everything he possibly can, and obviously they've done great work just to acquire the players they have, and now we'll see if they can, A, stay healthy, which has been an issue, and A+, become cohesive enough. And again, I'm not pretending that they're going to be able to run Vance's system the way he wants, but if they can at least approximate what the coaching staff was looking for in a competitive conference, if they can be competitive themselves, it doesn't mean they're going to win the thing. If they can be that kind of potential 20-win club, then I think you turn the corner with this program. We will see how it plays out, and we'll certainly cover it all we can and get Vance on the air whenever we can. And, of course, we'll become the flagship again for Fresno State on July 1, which makes it a lot easier to get certain people on the air with us. All right, Jack, before I let you go, about the showcase, where are we at recruiting-wise for football? Everything has been, as we've mentioned, a well-oiled machine. That's the perception. I think it's also the reality. How did things go with the showcase?
Yeah, the showcase was the 5th annual over at Clovis High, and perhaps the deepest that I've seen out of all those 5 years so far. Just a whole lot of talent, a lot of players with Bulldog offers, which, of course, is always nice to see. Probably more than a dozen recruits that are of that level, mostly 2027, a couple of 2028s. So a big collection of players that the Bulldogs are doing well with. Fresno State had about half the staff out there, which, of course, was nice to see. They had the most coaches there. The coaches from Cal, San Diego State, Boise State, Oregon State, the usual suspects were out there. That Tim Skipper made an appearance. That was neat to see him back in the Valley, and Cal players. And Cal Poly's also after a couple of Valley players that haven't quite made the Pac-12 layer of recruiting. So it would be nice to see that be a home for some of the local talent that doesn't quite get picked up at the Fresno State level. But just about everyone the Bulldogs going after, that Fresno State's in a pretty good spot. Most are taking official visits to Fresno State this summer. A lot of them only have Fresno State official visit scheduled so far. Most of them will probably be looking at other Pac-12 schools, but Bulldogs will try to get that wrapped up. Jamie Spurgeon, who did not compete or was out there, was formerly at Clovis East. He's now at Minarets High School. His recruitment has just exploded. It looks like right now he's going to be perhaps the toughest to keep home in this class. He's got new offers from Texas Tech, from Cal, from Utah. He's got some other power programs coming after him late. So I know the Bulldogs are still trying to make that happen. He was once considered a quarterback, and now he's focused in at tight end, which appears to have been a smart move for the 6'4" athlete who has just unusually exploded on the recruiting circuit at this time of year. So otherwise, most right in Fresno State's range, which is nice to see, and being well received by the coaching staff.
One of the unique aspects of the new pack is that when you talk about recruiting in-state for those athletes that want to stay in-state, it's only Fresno State and San Diego State, Jackson, as opposed to the old days if the pack was after. And I'm not saying that SC, UCLA, Cal, and Stanford don't look at the athletes in the state anymore. They most certainly do. But as far as staying within conference now, it used to be if the pack wanted somebody, those four schools were going to be the ones that were probably going to win the battle. Now, if you're going to stay in state, it's just Fresno State and San Diego State. Does that help the Bulldogs at all? Or as we've said, since those other schools, though they are in the Big Ten or somewhere else, they are still housed here in California. Does the recruiting battle change at all? Or is it just completely what it was before, just with different names of the conferences, ACC or Big Ten? You're still competing against the same big boys. How does it work?
Yeah, I think if a Cal comes along, wants the same recruit Fresno State wants, a lot of times you hear that close to home, but not too close to home. A lot of players like that opportunity, but within the Pac-12, you don't really have that. Everyone's pretty spaced out, at least in Fresno State's case. You got to go south of San Diego State or north of Oregon State, but you are seeing those names, Oregon State, Washington State, and to a degree San Diego State, really taking their chances in the Valley. I think a lot of Fresno State targets are going to have some combination of those schools on their final lists or places where they officially visit, maybe Boise State as well. Also on a couple of those programs. And I think probably just the difference is that you're going to see more of the same names, I think, for the same recruits when you factor in some of the revenue sharing and NIL opportunities, kind of grouping within certain schools. It felt like before you could have a target in the Mountain West who might have any of the three or four of the 12 Mountain West schools that they're considering. But I think you're going to see Fresno State the same, about 4 or 5 schools really going after most of the same prospects that are on the West Coast. But you're also going to have other talent pools, and for the Bulldogs, that's going to be Nebraska and the Midwest, and they haven't really ran into too many roadblocks out there. So that's been a nice supplement to maybe not getting all the players they want out on the West Coast.
And, of course, Jackson is heading up recruiting for Oregon, so he can let you know what's going on there. I'm just kidding. He's just covering it. He is not influencing that. Am I right about that, Jackson? You're not acting as an agent for the Ducks when you're at the showcases. Is that correct? You want to make that clear to everybody?
That is correct. And I believe only one of the targets that have the Fresno State offer also has an Oregon offer, James Caruso at Clovis High, who was just an awesome running back as a 2028 recruit. And the Bulldogs offered him at the spring preview, and despite having an Oregon offer already, he was pretty juiced about the opportunity to be a Bulldog. So I don't think there's going to be any head-to-head battles, but Oregon offers so many players that not everyone gets a chance to actually commit to those.
Right, and Phil Knight just hands them all $1 million just for considering Oregon. That's how it works. At least that's what Jackson has told me. Any trouble I can cause you, I'm most certainly going to do that. Hey, thanks for putting up with me again. 2 things. One, quickly here, special on the board, where are we at? Still at 50%, where are we at?
Yes, we have the 50%, but we're also able to bring back the $1 for a month. So if you want to get in there and check things out, kind of take a little bit of a trial, encourage people to do that, as that's the opportunity at the table. Still got a lot coming out from spring camp that we're running. Obviously, a lot of recruiting stuff going on now and a lot of basketball developments. And football recruiting will really crank up a notch here in a couple of weeks when official visits get going. That'll basically be the biggest point of the recruiting cycle for 2027. So a lot going on, even though there's a couple months here to wait for the football team to get.
Well, very reasonable price for a great service. Check it out at barkboard.com. Then as I let you go, we'll talk at the end of the week. You still stand by your comment you told me privately, right? Lakers in 4 against OKC. Is that still where you're at with this?
I'll take OKC.
Yeah, well, he's changed his mind, ladies and gentlemen. No, he never said Lakers in 3. He told me Lakers in 3. That's what he said. That's how sure he is about this. He said Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, overrated. These are the kinds of things that Jackson shares with me privately. You're an expert. I got to bow to you. All right, thanks for putting up with me, Paisan. Have a great 3 or 4 days away from me. I know you cherished being away from me at the end of last week. You never called. You never said hello. You just let it go. I'll talk to you on Friday, my friend. Take care. I'll see you.
Okay, Tony. Thank you.
All right. De facto co-host Jackson Moore. We'll take a break, come back, tell you about the schedule, hand that off to Phil. We have an hour today, and then he is off to high school baseball. Tell you about that after this as the Bulldog Hour continues on this Tuesday on Central Valley Sports Leader, 1430 ESPN.
Precision Civil Engineering is building the Valley from the ground up. From planning and land surveying to civil engineering and construction management, they handle it all with the experience you can trust. Proud sponsors of Fresno State Athletics, Precision brings that same commitment to excellence to every project. With over 20 years of experience, they're helping shape the communities we live and work in every day. From concept to completion, it's all done with precision. Learn more at precisioneng.com. Go Dogs!
Whoever it was that said rainy days are followed by rainbows and pots of gold definitely wasn't in the raisin business. Rain in the wrong places at the wrong time can be a disaster, a crop disaster, and a financial disaster. In short, it can mean there's no payday for all of your labor. Fortunately, it doesn't have to be that way. The solution? Crop insurance for raisins. Bowman & Associates, your local crop insurance specialist, has been writing raisin crop insurance for over 40 years. Bowman & Associates is one of the largest crop insurance agencies in the state and the nation. Call Kent, Quinn, or Blake Bowman today and let them design a policy customized to suit your individual growing needs. Time is running out to purchase rain insurance. With the unstable weather patterns and current low premium rates, now is the time to call Bowman & Associates at 499-2020.
Bowman & Associates, the crop insurance specialists.
California Department of Insurance license number 0F64178.
Hey, football fans, you know what makes a team great on the gridiron? It's when all the players do their part to make everything work. That's what Superior Pipe can do for your food processing plant, chemical plant, boiler service, or tank truck. Thanks to their reliable and durable pipes, valves, and fittings, you can be sure that everything that makes your team perform is running strong. And with their same-day service and competitive pricing, they'll help make sure all your players are doing their part. Call now at 266-PIPE or visit online at SuperiorPipeUSA.com today. Go Dogs!
Want to work somewhere fun, flexible, and rewarding? Me and Ed's is hiring. We're looking to expand our team with full and part-time positions at over 40 locations. Join our growing company as a delivery driver or valued team member today. For more information on job descriptions or to apply, go online at meandeds.com or visit your nearest location. Me and Ed's is hiring. Fill out an application.
Welcome back, 255. A few minutes ago on the show, handed off to Phil. His great show behind the bench, normally 3 hours, just 1 hour today, and then he will head out to Paul Metters to Kingsburg for Selma in Kingsburg tonight. High school baseball, 6:15 the pre, 6:30 first pitch. The Lakers are over on 790. Tell you all about the schedule right now for today and throughout the week, courtesy of Ed Dunkel and his fine business, Precision Civil Engineering, planning, land surveying, civil engineering, landscape architecture, construction management. It's all there under one roof, 449-4500 or precisioneng.net for more information. We commend Ed each and every day, not only for everything he does for the Valley itself, but for Fresno State specifically and for everything he does for us at the station. And one more time, one of the great things about the work that he does fundraising-wise through the Lyles College of Engineering